And what I'm primarily experimenting with is using New Australians' megafauna to do what their wild ancestors did prior to domestication. Their role in the landscape as severe grazers was to severely prune vegetation, to mulch and evenly spread fertilizer. And that's essentially nature's gardeners. And a lot of these, Australia's original savanna gardeners they haven't been around for thousands of years. For thousands of years, what couldn't be organically or biologically broken down every season was ignited into the atmosphere, and we have this new opportunity with the new megafauna to say, well, can we use this new megafauna, harness that energy, have it working in a landscape, and start rebuilding landscape function.
From wherever we are, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia, recognising their continuing connection to this land, its waterways, the stars in the skies since time immemorial. We pay our respects to the elders, knowledge holders, and to all the generations of First Nations peoples who have nurtured their unceded sovereign lands for over 80,000 years and continue to do so today.
G'day, I'm your host Charlie Arnott, an 8th generational Australian regenerative farmer. And in this podcast series, I'll be diving deep and exploring my guests' unique perspectives on the world so you can apply their experience and knowledge to cultivate your own transition to a more regenerative way of life.
Welcome to the Regenerative Journey with your host Charlie Arnott.
G'day Chris, welcome to the Regenerative Journey and welcome to Fat Pig Farm Day 2 at Grounded here. How are you?
Thank you, Charlie. Going very well, really enjoying it. They put on a drought for me. I always wanted to come to Tasmania and I've got a heat wave and a drought, so perfect.
You got the right lid on too. I forgot mine yesterday and I got absolutely cooked. And they reckon it's something to do with there's no ozone down here or something.
Apparently, yeah, it's got a bite to it, yeah.
It has. I wish I'd been briefed on that one.
Yeah. No, it's all about that.
It's not about my face, it's about you. So tell me, Chris, Day 2, is there anyone yesterday or this morning that you've listened to and thought, shit, that's interesting, or that's something, that you didn't know, or, any sort of epiphanies you've had over the last, day?
Well, I've got a pretty broad level of conscious incompetence. So when I listen in, it's always great to sort of know to hear new points, areas that I can sort of home in on. And I didn't really come here primarily to find out new things. More where I'm at is handing over the reins and looking at who's here, and to see that there's young people there, and that's more so the succession stuff and who's there and That's sort of grabbed me a whole lot more, and it's also great to see that I'm the mentors that I quote, they're already retired or some of them are dead, and it's nice to see that they've been replaced. There's some people talking with credible authority, and there's some great things happening, and it's that's probably what's really struck out. Not only the other thing that I really enjoy is that the fact we're having this in a setting where people are walking the talk. So we're not in some conference theatre where it might be more efficient to hold a workshop or easier to have presentations. We can walk around, use our own five senses, and yes, it's sort of a real life setting, which is, I think, appropriate.
Well, we've got demonstrations here. I mean, they're doing Bignell's doing one of those things called drone demo in the background. People can hear that over there, which is fascinating. I think it looks like a spray drone. We've got like plants and little farm tours that people are going on. And one of the great things about it, Chris, is we've actually got delicious food to eat.
Grown locally.
Right here, like food meters.
Yeah, grown and Cooked locally, yes, and we've got the local guard
Get out
dogs.
of it. And we've got guard dogs. It's real. It's real. We're on a farm.
Yep.
Sit down. Have you had any? One of the other great things about these sort of conferences, as you say, on farm, is bumping to people in the queue, or sitting beside someone. Have you had some interesting conversations with people you hadn't met before, or you just don't know, that, like, outside of the tents? Is there any light you can shed on any of those conversations?
What I found great is meeting people from the same tribe.
Hang on.
Yes. Yes.
They can still smell your dogs on you. Probably can. Hello. Sit. Hey.
Yes.
That's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, well, that drone is upset. I mean, he's definitely...
Oh, yeah, no, totally.
I mean, he's not there every day.
It's an alien.
It is an alien.
Hey? He looks like he's...
And then the thing is, just when they think they've chased him away, he comes back.
That's right. He doesn't know there's a fella on the end of that on a snazzy... Here it comes. Well, they're doing their job. This has been a great test.
Absolutely.
Chris, of loyalty.
Pass the test.
You're pretty cute, you two. Okay, can you just pipe down for a minute? Conversations outside of the tents. Yeah.
So I'm running into people who are obviously of the same tribe, and I think that's encouraging. They're younger people, and I lost my thread. These dogs sort of distracted me.
That's all right. Bumping into people in the queue and sort of conversations that organically kind of just happen. Anyone that you've met and gone, oh shit, that's interesting, outside of the tent scenario,
Yes, there have been a few, I think there'll be a few contacts out of this. There's one young fellow who's doing walking tours in Tasmania, but he knows the Kimberley, and it looks like that. I was just listening to him talk, and he's describing my vision of what I thought up there, and that's so encouraging to see. People have same values and similar challenges, and knowing that who to talk to when you have a question. Why reinvent the wheel if someone's already doing things? So the networking opportunities are really fantastic, and then there's so much being offered. There's no way that anybody can exhaust the full options, but apparently a lot of it's been filmed, and we can. It helps us be aware of questions and know where to find the answers to questions, or at least start looking for answers, and that's a good.
Is there anyone else that you've listened to and thought, shit, I'm going to go and research that, look that website up, make a phone call, like anything that sort of you've made a mental note of actioning, or sort of a bit of homework after the thing? Are you just happy to be here?
Well, Charlie, where I'm in life, I'm actually trying to hand over the reins, and I don't want to rule.
You delegate.
Right, exactly. I don't want to rule from the grave. So when the younger generation asks a question, I said, well, why don't you have a talk to them? I don't want to spoon feed the next generation. I think it's important that people do their own research, and I'll be going through the reports and checking some of the actual film stuff, but I'll also be looking up people's websites and just doing for myself. But I think it's more important just knowing what's out there, or beginning to realize there's an awful lot happening, and the whole movement seems to be spreading organically, which I think is the way it should. We don't really want hierarchical models where all the knowledge is sort of centered somewhere and people are beholden to gurus in that way. It's pretty obvious here that there's a lot of independent people, there's a lot of people networking and doing things, so that's just getting an appreciation for that network, being able to share the fact that network's out there, and knowing that if someone actually starts asking questions, you don't have to answer them, you can actually say, hey, go to that person, they've already, they're 5 years ahead of me, and that sort of stuff.
Something that struck me is the breadth of the brains trust that's here, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it feels like it's in pretty good hands, as you say. There's plenty of young people here who are, I guess I was describing to James Rebanks the other day, there are the analogy, Australian analogy. We've got explorers who went out there and took the biggest risk. Then the pioneers who sort of opened up on the heels of the explorers, and then the settlers. And there's plenty of settlers here. Yes. I think to sort of come in behind the pioneers, and as you say, a lot of the explorers are kind of not here anymore, are they?
No.
So tell me, you did a presentation first up this morning. Was fascinating. Tell me, and one of your, I guess dare I say, I guess it is one of the limiting factors is water up there.
Well, it's not.
Well, not so much.
It's water security.
Yeah.
I purposely chose the water, the thing water security. We get an awful lot of water. Actually, I could quite safely say, without having researched it, that per capita we have more manageable water than anywhere else on the planet. Yeah. Potentially manageable water.
Oh,
that drops out of what drops out of the sky.
Free from the heavens.
Free from this, and about as clean as you can get.
Yeah.
In this day and age, but a lot of that water actually is not life enhancing; it's life destroying through erosion, and it disappears fast, and the landscape is dehydrating. So water management or water security is an issue for us. It's having the right sort of water at the right time. For down here, I don't know, but the fact that we look behind us, that forest burnt a few years ago. Well, that tells me, obviously the hydration wasn't such that a fire could be contained. Maybe there are water issues in Tasmania as well I wouldn't want to talk about, but certainly hydration in the right manner is very critical, because without appropriate hydration, things and people start dying very quickly. And the way, our population concentrations we have on this planet and everything, I think water security and the quest for water security, which nature's had before, I think that's something that can unite all creeds and political persuasions, and we could, I think there's a great opening there to share knowledge and work collaboratively. And the Darwinian notion of competition, it was one of the speakers mentioned that briefly. The thing is, competition exists in nature, but it's actually a secondary principle. The primary principle is symbiosis. Then competition is then within the species for the health of the species given the prevailing conditions, and if you want to reduce it to the economy, is the same thing. The economy needs to be driven by local communities and symbiosis, and then let's have healthy competition within there to come up with the best product at good prices, without compromising the integrity of the land, the integrity of health, or whatever. So it's
It's just like a forest, isn't it? I mean, forest is healthy competition in forests because trees have to strive for sunlight, and then that also helps differentiate between different canopy layers, and it sort of differentiates in a positive way. It doesn't. Yes. There's no winners or losers. It's just like my niche is I'm sort of lower canopy,
and you're part of a cycle, and you understand that you're not sort of trying to hang in there forever. It's we don't try and keep a dead tree alive. Well, stop a tree from dying forever. We don't even try and replace a dying tree with a dying tree with another tree. We replace it with saplings, and maybe it's time for a different species. And I think it's very important that we actually look at the templates that are out there. Nature has a lot of templates, and we could communicate. So I was able to share my perspective. We're all standing on the shoulders of giants, like Elaine Ingham and Australia. But they were passing on their learnings and teachings 25 years ago. We've got a second generation who've embraced that. Now we sort of cross-fertilize and see what works and what's locally relevant, what is not as relevant in certain scenarios.
Tell me, we talked about, I guess water and availability and effectiveness and hydration. Tell me some of the. I know it's a big story and there's a lot to it, and over many years of I guess practice. But tell us, Chris, how do you manage water up there, as in, to your benefit or nature's benefit and hydrological function? What are some of the things you're doing that have enhanced the function up there?
Right, I've tabled a word, and that's rainfall management. At the end of the day, water is the issue, so we need to manage it. So we can't manage what drops out of the sky, but we can prepare for what drops out of the sky. And our biggest thieves where we are is gravity and then evaporation, in that order, I believe. In most of Australia, it's probably the other way around, where it's actually evaporation first, then gravity, and then other reasons. So the thing is, to manage those two water thieves, you want the first step is to just change raindrops into mist irrigators. So you stop the bombshelling. You try and have ground cover or vegetation there to shatter a raindrop, and then you turn it into a mist irrigator. Then you need the mulch, or the initially mulch, later on a sort of a spongy organic horizon to absorb that water. And then once that's saturated, more water will just push it down, and we can start filling up water tables, supplying aquifers, and that layer of life and organic matter at the top actually stops it from evaporating. So it's a more effective penetration of rainfall, a slowing down of any moving water, once again through vegetation, healthy soils. That is the holy grail, so to speak, and the way to go about that is understanding how nature manages savanna systems, which is where I am, and that is you need herbivores to keep the vegetation healthy. And what I'm primarily experimenting with is using New Australians' Megafauna to do what their wild ancestors did prior to domestication. Their role in the landscape as severe grazers was to severely prune vegetation, to mulch and evenly spread fertilizer. And yeah, that's essentially nature's gardeners. And a lot of these, Australia's original savanna gardeners they haven't been around for thousands of years. For thousands of years, what couldn't be organically or biologically broken down every season was ignited into the atmosphere, and we have this new opportunity with the new megafauna to say, well, can we use this new megafauna, harness that energy, have it working in a landscape, and start rebuilding landscape functions. So we're not going to rebuild what was there, but we can heal the land, heal the functions, or reinstate the functions, and rebuild levels of natural wealth that will allow us to sustain the current populations of not only humans, of the various of the biodiversity that we need for this machine of life to work, or engine. And we know it runs off solar energy, but at the end of the day, it needs to be effectively hydrated, and the science is there to understand better the nutrient cycling. So yeah, it's an interesting learning experience, and we've got a few little examples out there where we're testing this, and it's great to see there's a whole lot of young people interested in that. I've had one lass approach me. She wants to know whether she can come and monitor what's happening at the hydrological level, and Gachan's by all means, because all I monitor is, can I have a little bit more water every year, and can the water that flows off be as clean as possible? So my monitoring is very basic, but it'd be very interesting to see how our management over the years has had different impacts in different areas. So yeah, science there's a role for scientists, there's a role for a lot of new people who want to be on the land.
Chris, you're at the coalface of this practice, and you're doing it in a place that is isolated, I guess, because you imagine it's somewhat easier for someone in Tasmania, or even us at Burrawa, to do this in a way. Whether that's because of the elements and the seasons and the distances, and from market or other people, but so for you to have done what you have done is remarkable, and you've spent many years doing it and put a lot of effort into it. Do you have a sense of frustration? And you've seen the results, right? And we're talking about monitoring it even better now to sort of measure these objectively measure. Do you have a sense of frustration when you hear organisations or people saying we should get rid of cows because they're destroying the planet? Is that something that is? I'm sure you don't lose sleep over it, but is that something that
I have no alphabet soup behind my name, but just my gut feeling tells me in a world where biodiversity is at threat, it doesn't make sense to be killing things. I ask myself if there's something that disturbs me. I'm saying, well, what's missing? It's obviously something's out of balance if a particular organism seems to be in your way, but rather than poisoning it or eliminating it, let's just say, well, hang on, what's happening? What's missing? And to date, and that may change, but to date, my conclusion has always been it's the behavior of the animals that could be the problematic, not species per se. So, so I focus on the function, ecosystem function, where I come from, and I see what these new Australian megafauna could be doing, and I'm testing it. And to date, I'm very encouraged by what I'm seeing. As I say, I don't have the science behind me, and I invite scientific rigor to analyse what we're doing. But to me, a perennially flowing stream in what was previously a eroding gully that only flowed part of the year, I mean, that has to be a step in the right direction. And we've got springs appearing where we didn't even think there were springs. There's some areas where obviously, that's a spring, and it just stays longer every year. Now it's perennial. But there's all of a sudden we've got springs appearing. Hang on, what happened here? And then you start realizing we don't even know what we're dealing with. We've got a skeleton of a landscape that we're starting to beef up, and next thing there's organs popping out and there's muscle coming, and
revival.
It's fascinating. It is, and it all has to happen bottom up, because I mean, and that I do understand is healing or regeneration or growth by definition has to be bottom up, inside out. It starts at a cellular level, and 25 years ago, Elaine Ingham woke us up to the biochemical communication that happens in the root zone. In the last few years, we're hearing about the microbiome on the skin and in our digestive tracts. And the next thing you hear, we've actually got fungi and bacteria in our organs. We realize, hang on, I as a human being, most of the cells don't have the DNA of my parents. I am actually a community of cells. There's a whole spaces opening up where you realize, whoa, there's so much I don't know, and I've got an obligation to so much more than I actually thought. So we can get away from an egocentric and sort of head more to an ecocentric
I like that
vision.
And I like your reference to organs, and I guess which essentially makes up the body, and everyone has a function. That water hole has a function, the slope, the riparian zones, they all have their functions which all create and contribute to the body of whatever you want to call it.
The whole.
Yeah, the whole, and that could be the boundary of your station up there. It could be the whole Kimberleys, and the whole continent. So, Chris, can't thank you enough for your time now, and also for your contribution to not just the conference, but to, I guess, our understanding of landscape function. And again, in an area that's no doubt thrown up, a lot of challenges, and you've travelled a long way to be here. So thank you for your time. I'd love to get up there one day. I used to be a pearl diver up there in the Kimberley area many years ago.
Well, it would have got under your skin. So when you're back, you come and see us.
I loved it. I so enjoyed that country up there. Yeah. And even that was 35 years ago, I think it was. And it is under my skin. I haven't been back.
Yeah,
it's all. I have been to Kununurra, Gulliver's Tavern.
Yeah, right.
And Charlie Barbagello over the road with his pizzas. Is Charlie still there?
No. Unfortunately, no. That's changed hands a number of times. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
And I haven't seen Charlie. Well, not since he started building. Yeah, it's been probably about 15 years since I last saw Charlie. But he's probably around somewhere, but not local.
He had a melon farm.
Yeah.
We chipped melons there one morning. Crook as dogs we were. It was terrible. Got to get back. Chris, thanks so much. And you might want to get back to some of these speakers. So thanks for your
Charlie.
time.
Yeah, and safe travels.
Thank you.